Welcome to Live, Love, and Marry Wiser. On this episode, I am going to reveal my list, and we're going to talk about, is it important? Is it good to have lists or not to have lists? Let's find out. Join us. You don't actually love them.
So now what we're doing, helicopter parenting.
But we can even get more used to carrying the emotional bag.
Going from what I like to call healing to wholeness.
But we're not created as beings to be alone.
Hey, again, welcome to Live, Love, and Marry Wiser, where our mission is in our name. Proverbs 4:7 says, wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom. But with all that getting, get understanding. And we are here every week to help you get wisdom and understanding as it relates to your life, your love, and your marriage. We are happy to be here with you. Welcome to those who are here with us live and those who will watch later. Hey, Onetia, how are you?
Hey, Lorraine, I'm doing good. It's always a pleasure to be here co-hosting with you on Tuesdays. You have one of my favorite colors on today, that yellow. I love it. It's
Thank you so
nice.
much.
Make me think of the weather, but I also get excited every time our picture comes up and I think about being at the retreat. Like that just brightened my day, and I just thank God that I went, because He knew I needed it. Like,
yes,
I so needed it.
You needed it. We all needed it.
Yes.
And as Ebony said from that episode at the end, we are not made to do life alone. So if you don't want to do life alone, you can click that link right there in the comments, pinned to the top, a single mission / praying sisters. And you can find out about the community that we have developed and started, and it's growing. And we had a retreat a couple of weeks ago, and it was amazing. Yes. And so we are having a very special episode for you tonight. This is episode number 80. We've done 80 episodes.
Wow.
And that's a lot.
Yes.
We've been live on most of those. We take our little break after the season is over. But we've talked about red flags. We talked about green flags. We talked about what things men want, and what things women want, and what they don't want, and what they shouldn't do, and all these things. But you know what we haven't talked about? We haven't talked about what I want.
Right.
I've been getting on here talking about my intentional dating journey.
Yes.
Have a tiny little update on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I I don't even know if I've ever mentioned that I have a list. We talked a little bit about lists at some points, and we're going to talk about that more. Should you have a list? What should be on the list? Why do you need a list? What's the importance of that? But then I'm also actually going to walk through 7 signs that are from my list that he is the one for me.
All right.
I'm not going to give away all the tea because I don't want him to be like fronting. Most of these you can't really fake for very long, but we're going to give you 7 signs that he is the one for Lorraine.
Yes.
I hope that you are excited about that, and you join us and you're in the comments and you're asking questions and you're making comments, because we want this to be interactive.
Sure.
So, Onetia, what do you think about that?
Well, I think it's lovely, especially because you're outside now. So we need to be intentional about who you're talking to when you are outside. So I think it's great, that you pulled this list out, you dusted off the cobwebs, and you're like freshening it up, or highlighting some things, circling some things, or saying, man, this list is still real solid. Right now. So, and I agree, we're not giving up all the tips tonight, because we don't want to. I'm a that too. We don't want one of those guys to do this podcast and goes, "Oh, that's me. I do all of that," because you've given them, you've given them all the secret sauce. Nah, you're not getting that tonight, fella. Whoever you are, but I'm so glad that we are doing this, because you have been intentional. You have been intentional. You spend time with Pastor Leggett and getting you prepared. and we know you outside. You know, all of us are trying to get our bodies snatched for your impending wedding for when that does happen. So I think the list, like, I think this is right on time, and it's going to help somebody else too who may need to freshen up their list or even begin to write one, because I think it's imperative that you do write one, because if not, you're just out there dating any and everybody, and you know, we're dating with purpose these days. Okay.
Yeah, we're dating with purpose. We're dating with purpose. That's interesting that you say we're dating with purpose, because I'm actually speaking at a church in a couple of weeks, on the 19th. And the title of the seminar that I'm doing in the afternoon is called Dating with Purpose. And
See?
so it's like we are doing that.
Yes.
You know, we're gonna a piece of that is going to be talking about creating a list. Now, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
I guess I'll do my update and then I'll ask you the question, and then I'll do the update, and then you can answer the question.
Wonderful.
So here's the update. Okay, folks. So if you've been with us, you know I'm on this intentional journey to meet the man that God has promised me. And some may say you haven't been that intentional because you haven't been outside a lot.
Yeah.
Onita might say that, but Onita, I went outside this weekend.
outside.
I went outside. And I'm just gonna give y'all a brief. I went to it was Nigerian Independence Day. My brother-in-law is Nigerian, and of course you don't have to be Nigerian to go to the party because there were a whole lot of people there. But and so my sister has been going. This is my first time going. And that was Saturday night. And there were just new people. First of all, I was outside and there were new people. Yes. There were new men, there were new women, there were new people. But there was this little Cotty bear noticing me. And here's the deal, y'all. I was looking really good. I should have actually uploaded to show you all. I was looking really good and I was totally feeling myself. And the lesson that I learned that I'm going to tell y'all right now is that you can be happy with yourself all the time, no matter what size you are. Even if you're not where you want to be, you still should be happy with yourself because you are a daughter or son of God, and He has made you. And we all have improvements that we want to make in our lives, but it doesn't say anything about who you are. And who I am is the person that God made me. And I was, for some reason, I did look good, so it helped that I was that I was feeling myself. But I was walking with confidence, and I saw him. I noticed him noticing me, and I was like, and so I didn't really talk. I never talked to him, but we did have a little flirt moment there right before I left, where we literally were looking at each other, eyeing each other, smiling at each other. I waved at him, and he was like blushing. But there were some things that I saw that weren't on the list. So it was like nice to flirt with him, and I got that dopamine rush, and was reminded about what it felt like to just be having fun with a guy in a very innocent way. Haven't done that in a long time. And so I am going outside more, Onita. Yes. And it was a good time. But you all, if you want to find someone, you have to go outside. You have to. When we say outside, that's a metaphor for just getting out of your house. Like I work from my house, I live in my house, I do podcasts sometimes from the house. So I'm just like always inside. And she's like, get outside. You have to go outside to meet someone. Yes. So I went outside. And if you want to meet someone, you have to go outside too. Just do something fun. Yes. Do something that you enjoy doing. And hey, maybe you'll meet someone who also enjoys doing that thing. Go to the health food store, go to the pet store.
The pet store and health food store.
And someone told us a third place. I can't remember the third place someone told us. But we'll get back to you all on that. But you haven't been to the pet store, the health food store yet. So you still need to do that.
Yes. I'm glad to know you went outside. I'm glad to know that you had an experience with a little flirtation, because it's always fun and flirting. And the key point in what you said was loving yourself and confidence. I will tell you, we've had some of the guys on the show too before. That confidence, you ain't got to be a size 2, but if you're confident, you will attract.
Mhm.
The guys will be attracted to that. And so loving yourself, again, being comfortable in your singleness, loving your singleness, but going out there and already saying too, I know I look good. Okay. I know I look good. Whether somebody tell me or not, I know I look good.
Yes.
So you're just gonna walk different.
Yes. That's absolutely true.
Yeah, you changing the energy when you walk in there. So I love it. I'm glad you're outside. It's the first of many more occasions.
First of many more. So I have some updates for you again next week.
Yes.
So here's my question. You said it's imperative to have a list. Talk about if someone just joined us, what list are we talking about and why is it imperative to have a list?
So it's imperative. The list we're talking about is basically your I would say, some people say soulmate or your life partner, your future husband or wife. We're talking about that list. Actually having a list of things that you want in a person before you even get that person start dating. It's just like saying, I want my dream job, right? You're like, I want this dream job. But what is it? You got to detail it out, what you want it to look like, what you want it to be, goals you want to set. And so it's imperative to have this list so that you are dating on purpose, that you know that when I start to talk to somebody, maybe you're on dating sites, right? And so you're putting in some things. You're not putting everything you like in those sites and assessments. I don't know. I've been married 24 years, so I don't know what you put in. Okay, but from what I'm hearing, you're putting things that you like to do, maybe your religion, your age, of course, your pictures, because they're literally swiping left or right based on your photo. Okay.
Right.
But there's some things that you're putting there to get the algorithm that they're going to put people up that you like. We're saying outside of that, make your own list, things that you know that you must have, that must be must-haves in your spouse, that are non-negotiables, things that are like to haves. We were talking one time about, people like 6'6", 6 feet, making 6 figures. And I forget what the other thing is, but if it's 6 and having a 6-pack, those are like to haves. Okay. Or you may be somebody who's saying, nah, girl, he gotta have, he gotta make 6 figures, or nah, girl, he gotta be 6 feet because I'm 6 feet. So I get it if you got a high thing, but also things that are, things that, like I said, non-negotiable, your values, things you may not have thought about from past relationships where, these are things I also don't want. And I think Pastor Leggett maybe said that to us once. I remember somebody being on the show saying, don't just write what you want, write also what you don't want. Because you want to be clear too on what you don't want, so that if that shows up too in the person you're talking to earlier on, So I think it's imperative that you do that, so that you're dating on purpose, but you're also guarding your heart. The Bible tells us to guard our hearts. And so that you're not getting so emotionally involved with a person that here's my core, my core 10 things, and they're not even meeting 8 of them. Like, you need to go ahead and don't even try to rationalize it. Don't try to think that you can change it. If these are your core values, this is not the looks, this is not the job, this is not the 6-packs, but this is core values, and the person's not aligned with that. Don't even waste your time getting emotionally involved with that person. Exactly. So this list is imperative. If you're out there single and you're still dating and trying to find your life partner, or you're dating now and you're like, you know what, I didn't even put that list. Let me see how we measure up.
Exactly.
So I think it's imperative that we do that. And I'm excited we get to talk about your list. So tell us, first of all, tell us the age of your list, because I think our viewers would like to know how long you've had this list.
Okay, so this is the list. The list is in this folder. It hasn't been in this folder for the whole 31 years.
Woo.
I wrote this list when I was 23 years old. It is dated. This is the amended list, but I amended it like maybe a week or so after the original. I wrote this list and I spelled amendment wrong. on September 15th, 1993. I wrote this list. This is my handwriting on legal pad paper. And this list has been in this folder for many years.
Wonderful.
So 31 years I've had that list. I've referred back to it periodically, not every day, certainly not every year even, but I've referred back to it periodically. I pretty much know what's on it. And so, yeah, that's the answer to that question. We lost you there. So I'm going to answer the same question that I asked Onetia. And that question is, why should you have a list if you're dating? You should have a list because you need to get clarity on the things that matter to you, what your values are, what you want your partner's values to be. Typically, those are the same as yours. And we talk about core values. We're talking about things you live by. And you'll understand as I read my list what that looks like. But, and you need to be able to identify those things when you see them. Now, there are a lot of people in the world who share your values, but it doesn't mean you can be with all of them, because there may be other things, like they don't have all of the things that are on your list. Mm-hmm. But there may even be like, oh, we share the same values, but our personalities aren't really meshing. So it's not to say that, oh, if this person matches single thing on your list, then okay, time to get married. It's like you still have to date, get to know each other. Can you be friends? Can you like laugh together? How do you deal with conflict? All those things. Now, some of those are built into your values. So if your value is someone who believes in who is not like physically abusive or verbally abusive, and that you have respect for each other, that's obviously going to bleed into how you deal with conflict. So those things, there may be other things that, because your personalities, like you have to live with this person. So this is not robotic where we just match these things up. Oh, the algorithm matches us, so let's go.
Yeah.
There's got to be other things. But this is a very solid point that I believe if we have this, some of those other things that we think are really critical, like 6 feet, 6-pack, 6 figures, can actually take a back seat when you're like, wow, I've met someone who actually shares these values. Like when we walk together, when we date together, when we talk together, there's a connection of our heart, of our mind, of our spirit, of our sensibilities, of our values that matters to me so much. We can work on getting 6 figures together. We can work on getting in shape together. We can work on, the other thing to get, well, you can't get taller together. So you might have to just let that one go. But so I just think that that's why it's important to have a list. And I see people who don't have a list and they just date anybody.
Yeah.
The person likes them, not even necessarily because they like that person. And that's a whole different conversation. But because that person likes them, they're just like, oh yeah, let's do it. And so they have no structure around how they date, what they talk about, the questions they ask. Do they push the envelope and like actually see, is that person worthy of your time? And so that's why I believe it's important to have a list.
Yes. Yeah. And to your point, don't be thirsty.
Don't be thirsty.
You have this list, and because somebody did hit on you, you're like, okay, you hit on me, and you're not in my list, bro. Keep walking.
Exactly.
Yes. So share with us, 31-year-old list. Have you updated it at all since then?
I have not updated it at all since then.
Okay, this is going to be interesting. This is going to be very, times have changed. The world has changed, but I know you're very smart. You've always been smart, and I'm quite sure your list from back then probably had some concrete things that have not changed. So,
Well,
please,
we're about to find out.
yes, please share with the people.
Okay. So number one is they are a Seventh-day Adventist Christian. Why does that matter? I believe that Amos is correct when it says, can two walk together unless they be agreed?
Yes.
And so some people might say, well, Christians, that you all believe the same thing. Yes, in general, we do. But there are things that are of significance that we don't all agree on.
Yes.
A primary one is the seventh-day Sabbath that we keep as a holy day. I have spent my adult life, almost all those 31 years, more than that, actually, because I wrote it when I was 23, going to church by myself, serving in the church by myself, doing ministry by myself. I'm not interested in being married and doing that by myself. So besides some of the, maybe the beliefs that we have that may be different, I want a partner in ministry. I want a partner to sit by in church. I want us to study the Sabbath school lesson together when I study it. I want us to teach together if we teach. I want us to do food bank together. I want our lives, because church is a big part of my life.
Yes, yes.
I want that. I want our beliefs to be the same so that, well, we're not going to be having any children at this point, but that we are walking together. No, we're not doing that. No, we don't need that. We're not doing that. We're not even having that conversation. But so that we can walk together, but also so that we can serve together. And our purpose is aligned, because he's going to go to church on Sunday and I'm gonna go to church on Saturday. And maybe we're going to go together, but now we're going to spend the whole weekend in church and I'm not interested in that. And so this isn't like this type of Christian is good and this type of Christian is bad. I don't think a person who worships on Sunday should marry someone who worships on Saturday. So this isn't like just one-sided.
Yeah.
I think it's the same challenges that you have no matter what. I don't think a Hindu should be with like a Orthodox Hindu should be with a Muslim. I think whatever your faith belief is, you should be with the person who believes like that, unless you're not kind of holding to it and it doesn't matter to you. Because it is such a fundamental part of it's our worldview. Yeah. What we believe, even if you believe nothing in a sense of a religious thing, everyone believes something.
Yeah, you believe something.
It's your worldview. And this is critical to how you live your life. And so for me, even what we eat is different. Even where we go is different. Some people drink, some people don't. I need someone who is aligned in my total belief system. Yeah. So that's why I picked that.
I mean, I think it's definitely a very important one. And foundation, like you said, our faith is the foundation. That's the core of who we are. And so if you're not aligned with that, it's going to be tough. I mean, I've plenty of examples in our church where the one spouse is not. And so they're not to church. They're not at church together ever. The kids grow up and typically their kids end up not going to either church because the parents were split on it. And like you said, as far as some of our core fundamental beliefs, they're completely different. And so there's going to always be this discourse kind of in the home or division that should not be there. You know, we can't let there even be a little crack because the enemy likes to get into that crack as well. Now, I will say when I did meet my husband, he was Christian. He was not Adventist. Of course, I was younger, but he was actually open to learning about the faith.
Mhm.
And so as he studied and just saw right there in the Bible in black and white, he said, oh, it's simple. Saturday's a Sabbath, and, oh, the state of the dead. They don't know anything. So then he decided too that, hey, I want to be baptized.
Mhm.
And so I would say too, if the person is open and willing, but in complete agreement with you, if he's not even the same, a Christian and Muslim or Christian and Hindu, yeah, no, you definitely are
Yeah.
completely way off from, and it's just going to be,
True.
you're starting off already just
If
down a
you
rocky
all
road.
are not orthodox and you're not really holding to what you believe or whatever,
Mhm.
then you can do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if you really are believing and walking in your belief system, whatever that is it just is true that the Bible says, be not unequally yoked.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, and let me just say, that's not just from a spiritual or religious perspective. There are
Yes.
other ways we can be unequally yoked,
Mm-hmm.
but specifically it says with unbelievers. And I don't think unbeliever even means someone who doesn't believe in God, but they don't believe what you believe about God
Mm-hmm.
and the Bible and how to live that way. So I do think that it's a very important thing, and it's something that I would not compromise on in marriage. I have compromised in dating, and the results have been exactly as as previously outlined.
And I was going to say too, for somebody who may ever be like, well, we're already dating, I already know he's fine with it. Let me tell you when it becomes a real problem too. Let's say, oh, you're married. Once you have kids, this is when it usually becomes, because you want your kid, you want to take your kid to Easter egg hunt, and he don't. You want to do, like, it ends up becoming a huge battle. I've seen it time and time again, because you're like, we're all good, it's all fun and dandy till the kids come. Because I'm telling you, you're gonna be like, well, I don't want the kids not to go to church with me. And he's like, well, I don't want to go with you, I want to go. No, that's when it becomes, and you don't even want to get to this point, is what we're saying, y'all.
Exactly.
You don't want to even get to that point, because you need to make it a big part of your list.
Yeah, there was a pastor who was doing a relationship series, and he said, you don't want someone who respects your values. You want someone who shares them.
Yes.
Because respecting means, okay, it's okay for you to do that, but I'm going to do something different. And that's not how you want to live your life.
Yeah.
Okay, number 2.
Did you see
you
the
ready?
comment? Eva had a comment. Did you see that?
Let me see. That is very true. My husband doesn't attend church with me, and it's difficult. It is. And I see people. In fact, I was invited to a church, and I was talking to someone about just kind of I was invited to speak at a church. And I was talking to them about some of the challenges they have. We were trying to figure out what they wanted me to talk about. And one of the things that she said is that, and she happens to be single too, she's like, there's a lot of single people, but then she's like, but then I realized they're not single. They're married, but their partner is not a Seventh-day Adventist or a Christian, so they don't go to church. So there are a lot of people in our church who just have to come to church alone. And that's just the baseline of just the difficulty. There's just so much, especially when someone like me is very much involved in church. And it's particularly on the woman's side, but when you're very involved in church, and then your husband's like, I don't want you to do that. I need you to be here. I need you to be here. And we're not doing that together. And so now you're torn by your submission to your husband, but then also the purpose that God has for you. So
yes.
Yeah.
All right. Number two
is he's sensitive or empathetic.
We need those. We need them.
We need it. We don't think that men, we don't necessarily look for that in men, but I do, because I think that first of all, a good person is someone who's sensitive to other people and empathetic to their feelings. And when you're empathetic, it means that you don't just, you're just like, oh, I understand that you're feeling this way. It's like, I felt that way. Like, I feel that for you. And so the decisions that we make when we're sensitive to other people are very different than the decisions we make when we're just kind of selfish and thinking about ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's I want someone who thinks about other people and not just me. A lot of these things that I'm going to say, they apply in marriage, obviously, but I want someone who's like that in general, not, oh, he's sensitive to me, but he don't care about nobody else. Like, that's not attractive to me either.
Yeah, no.
So, and I don't even think that's possible, because if you're that kind of person, then you're just that kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That's good, girl. I hope he's listening.
Okay, number 3 is intelligent. Now, he don't have to be a genius, but the reason this is important to me is because, like, we can sit here and we haven't talked about any of this stuff. I mean, for those of you who, are watching the podcast or have not watched before, we come up with the topic that we're going to talk about, but we don't break down the topic. We don't have this discussion until we get on air.
Yeah.
And so obviously you can tell Onita's very intelligent and she brings a lot to the table. So we can have conversations just off the cuff about a lot of stuff, and they're like stimulating, and I'm learning from her and she's learning from me.
Yes.
I want a partner who that is our life. And I have a lot of friends who are like that, but I want a partner. Like, I don't want to be in my house thinking, okay, this dude is, yeah, okay. Because I have a friend who will remain nameless. And he said to me that he was frustrated because he could not have any deep conversations with his wife. The only thing she wanted to talk about, like, they could talk about church and stuff like that, but just about, and he's very smart and he reads a lot, and but he's like, the only thing that we really can talk about is like either church stuff or like, and she wants to talk about social media. She's like on that, and he's not interested in that at all. And so I was just imagining spending the rest of your life. This isn't just like, oh, you happen to be at a dinner and you're sitting by someone who maybe the conversation is not that interesting, but then you get to leave and go home and that's over.
Right.
It's like, oh, they come with you and then they stay with you. And you're like, you're talking about dumb stuff all the time.
Right.
So someone who's intelligent, but not just intelligent in a way that they don't make other people feel stupid.
Yes.
So it's not just that you're smart, but that you can have conversations with people at any level of intelligence or understanding on a topic and not make people feel like they're dumb. And so, or not intelligent. So, yeah.
So would it be safe to say too, I guess when we look at the overarching topic would be open, the communication style. So if you want somebody who's open.
Well, communication's on my list, so I'm going to talk about that further.
Oh, okay. I'll let you know that.
But you've met people who are so smart, but they want you to know they're so smart.
Oh, yes.
And they're constantly making people feel less than them or not as smart as them or whatever. And that's obviously unattractive.
Yeah.
It lacks empathy and sensitivity, but so intelligent, but not in a way that makes other people feel like, they just don't have any intelligence. And that's it to me. So
yeah, it's very important. You're smart. So my grandma used to always say, marry a guy who's on your level or above. And she was mainly about like education wise and intellect, because you want to be able to learn from each other, grow, as well as be able to have those conversations. So yeah. That's on your list. Yeah.
And obviously people have intelligence in different areas. So no one knows everything. So you should, like you said, you should learn from each other. it's so attractive I had a conversation with this guy about trees talking. He's a scientist, and he, had done all this research or whatever. And I mean, he's read all this research. He wasn't doing it. And I mean, never in, I don't think, a million years I've ever thought about a tree talking or having a conversation about that. But we talked about it for over an hour. And, and it was actually interesting.
Yeah.
And I actually looked up the article that he was referencing because it was interesting to talk about something that I had never thought about or heard about. Do I want to go study it? No, but it also is a sign of just God and his like amazing greatness that we don't understand. But you want to have interesting conversation, because if you don't have that, it's easy to start nitpicking at some of this other stuff.
Heck yeah, for real. It's a must. All right, number 4.
This is probably an easy one. Attractive.
Of course.
Attractive.
Because they want that too.
They want that too. They want that too. And what I mean by attractive is I'm attracted to him. It doesn't mean that everyone else has to think that he looks good.
Hello. Yeah. Listen, I will tell you, I won't say her name, but she will proudly say it. She always says on Facebook, I'm looking for a medium ugly bae. She calls them no, she said, get you a medium ugly bae, because they're gonna take good care of you. They're gonna be respectful. She'll be like, don't stay away from the pretty boys. She'd be like, get you a medium ugly bae. And I had never heard the phrase, but I guess there's such a thing. And I understood exactly what she meant. But Christine, my grandma used to say, date a guy or marry a guy who's on your level or above. And she meant that in intellect, as well as even I think she meant also financial status too. Mm-hmm. But definitely she used to say that as far as intellect, because she used to be like, "Where you're gonna get your college degree, so you gotta at least have that, at least have that and above." So yeah.
Well, yes, a medium ugly babe. I've heard that. I have heard that before. But I do think that sometimes we can get caught up in what other people think about the person that we're dating, and we can actually lose out on a good prospect because our friends say, "Oh, he's not that cute," or he may have all of the qualities that we have talked about and that we will talk about, but because the other people don't think he's attractive, then you're like, oh no, I don't. But there have been guys who I did not think was attractive until I became friends with them. And then they were very attractive. And so I think, but I became friends with them because of their character and their personality. Yes. And so I think that we need to be really careful around attraction and what that means, because it absolutely needs to be between the two of you. Even if it doesn't start off that way, you shouldn't marry someone you're not attracted to.
For sure. Yeah.
Absolutely you should not. And but sometimes we don't even give ourselves a chance to be attracted to someone by just getting to know them. Your life is not going to end if you go out on a couple of dates with somebody who may not be the most attractive person in the world. Yeah. Or be attractive to, because there are people who the world thinks is very attractive who I'm just like, never mind. I would not be interested in that. But I think that when we start making our list based on character things like what we're talking about and values, then we open up our opportunities to meet and date different people and develop attraction. Because this isn't television where you see each other across the crowd. I mean, I know that happened Saturday night, but I'm not trying to be with him, but I'm just saying, like, that's not how life works all the time. Sometimes you just, like your story, if people, have not heard your story the first time you were on here talking about your husband and how you didn't like him at all.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't like his personality or anything.
Nothing.
And now 24 years later, here you are, you know, happy as the clam. But I think that when we open ourselves up to values and we start thinking about values and those things that actually endure the test of time, we will find attraction where we didn't think we would find it before.
Completely and totally agree. When those things, the main things, then what's important, you will. I mean, things that even now, my husband can put on nice clothes, and I'm like, "Oh, baby, so handsome." But sometimes when he starts talking his work talk lingo, and he's like talking about his presentation or something, and I'm just like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, "You're just like so dreamy." You know, like, give me a man in his element. You know what I mean? Like, he is that confidence in what he's talking about. I'm like, "Hey, boo, like, hey, holla."
I love that. I love that so much. Yeah,
attraction.
Just putting a suit on changes.
The same boys you might have been playing basketball with at the YMCA, and then he walks in Saturday with that suit on. You're like, what? Huh?
What in the world? Praise the Lord. But he has done marvelous things.
Yes. I would say with that attraction to compatibility and lifestyles, because you've kind of touched on it a little bit too, just not with just your faith, but what you do too with compatibility in your lifestyle in the sense that you are a giving person. So you know some aspect of your life is not going to be about just to preach and teach it, but giving back. But what does their lifestyle look like? Is it all about flashy? Is it only shopping, eating out? We're traveling to Dubai this week, but we're never doing anything for somebody. Like, you want to know these things too about a person, because that's also, I mean, you know, again, as you're dating, you're getting all the data, right? You're asking these questions, but how do our lifestyles kind of align? What are our hobbies and interests? So again, writing them out, because I can tell you right now, if I had to be a single woman today, and somebody asked me what are my hobbies, I'd be like, I don't know, I got to write them out. But ladies, write out your stuff, your hobbies, your interests. And then you need to know too, lifestyles. How do we align? Is this person a person that, Lorraine, you work out, you go to the gym, you walk outside of nature? They may be like, hey, I'm just going to get a nip tuck. I ain't exercising ever. What? Like, no, we got to be able to go to the gym together. You outside with me or something, or whatever. But those are things too, as you're thinking about the attraction when you're part of your list, you know, compatibility and that component of your lifestyle. Too.
Absolutely. I love that. Yes. Okay, here's another basic one. Good manners.
I mean, this list is pretty, like you said, it ain't just about married folks. It's just like even your friends. You want your friends to be on this list, okay?
Yeah.
Good at communication.
Yes.
Good, you know, faith,
conversation,
manners, conversation. Yeah.
And what's so interesting is that my friends are on this list. My friends are on this list.
Yeah.
And so I would want my husband to be my friend because they fit in the category of where my friends are. Like the people that I spend most of my time with in all aspects of my life are my friends, and they match this list. And so when we start thinking about, you know, how some people are like, oh, they friend zone this person or whatever. I'm like, that's the best zone to be. You should be friend zone. The person that you actually want to be friends with, that's who you want to be married to. Because then when life gets rough, just like your friendship withstood times get tough, so will your marriage, because you're friends with that person. You have something besides the marriage, in a sense, like if someone gets sick and maybe there's not physical intimacy and maybe there's like money problems and maybe there are all these things, but because you're friends, you still can talk to each other. You still can connect with each other. You can still laugh together. You can still cry together. You can, all the things that you were doing before, you can carry those over. And now that relationship has gotten deeper because of, you know, the marriage part of it.
Yeah.
So yes, good manners. I think that people who are rude are just very unattractive to
I was going to
me.
say, yes, very unattractive.
It's very unattractive. And it doesn't matter how good you look. If you're rude, then you lose all kind of credibility with me. And good manners are for everybody. They're not just for people who can help you get ahead, or people who are, you know, your boss, or people who are rich, or people who are popular. They're for everybody. They're for the person that's on the street who's begging for money because they're homeless. That person deserves your good manners, just like the person who is your CEO at your company. And I think that the reality is, you know, when I wrote this 31 years ago, good manners was pretty common.
Yeah, it was.
It's not that common anymore.
Exactly. Sometimes I walk in the store and guys won't even hold the door. And I'm like, bruh,
yeah,
you didn't even hold the door?
Yeah. It's not common.
Yeah.
And so it's really something you need to have on your list, because you're going to find yourself in a situation where maybe your husband doesn't hold the door, not even for you. Not even for you. Please and thank you. Yeah. All of that has gone so far out the window for many people that I'm glad I put it on my list 31 years ago, because maybe I wouldn't have thought about it right now, but it's just like, this is important. When you are, I was listening to a TED Talk today, and they were talking about marriage and the 4 habits you need to have a successful marriage. And it was really good. But one of them was be careful not crushing. And I think that that's part of good manners, is how you talk to someone.
Yes.
Even in a difficult situation matters, versus you just saying whatever out your mouth and then you just crush them, and they are, and it just creates chinks.
Yep.
And craters in your relationship.
Yeah. Like, well, that ties back into empathy, when you talk about being empathetic, because I'm going to treat you the way I want to be treated. And then respect, what you just said too, like being respectful. You have to have respect. Also respecting your boundaries, or respecting that you have different needs than this person. And so that ties back in with the good manners aspect too. And I would say trust. I don't know if that's on your list, but they trustworthy, as well as, you know, with all those other components, but be respectful. And don't use the excuse, well, that's just how I am. That's the way we grew up, and that's what my family did. No. You know better, do better. Or if I'm telling you, you know, hey, I don't like to be talked to that way, or please don't raise your voice with me. Your excuse should not be, well, that's just how I am. No, go learn how to regulate your emotions and try again. Or maybe don't try again. That may be a red flag.
That may be a red flag.
Just regulate, and they can't even regulate their emotions that front. You like, you're not that deep in the game, and their excuse is, that's just the way I am, and they basically telling you I'm unwilling to change. Then full stop. As Ebony would say, red flag, full stop.
Absolutely. So come correct. You know, come with just the basics, because this is not even a high standard. It just is a standard.
Yeah.
Provider.
Yes.
Drive to succeed, or realistic, like ambitious, not in an overly ambitious sense, because I don't want someone who's working for 20 hours a day and can't be with the family, but
work-life balance.
Who wants to provide, who is a provider, who believes that that's their responsibility. And I applaud that, because I agree with that too. Y'all already know that part, but I applaud that. So provider was on my list when I was 23 years old.
That's awesome. Provider, I would say another word for it too, have good money management skills, because again, like I said, he may not make the six figures, but he's good at saving. He's good at spending. He makes financial plans for the short term and long term goals. And you have you're equally yoked on that too, where you have discussions about how you see money and the value of it, and you want to save for the future and save for a rainy day, and you're not going to be hey, he is just making all the money and paying all the bills, and you over here just spending it before he can get home every single day. That's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. But definitely, as you're making out your list again, these are things to consider. What are their money management? First of all, recognize what your money management behavior is.
Right. What's your money mindset?
What's your mindset? And then what would you like to see in your partner?
Yes.
For that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And the thing is, even if that person isn't, maybe they're great at making money, but not great at managing it. If they are willing to surrender to your ability to manage the money, if they recognize it as an issue. If they don't recognize it as an issue, then you're going to be unequally yoked in that respect. And that's going to be very problematic, because money is a big issue in relationships.
Yeah.
But I personally, I can, but I don't like to. I'm not interested. I would prefer to just make money and then let you manage it, and just tell me I can spend this much, and then I just go spend it, and then that's it. Like, I don't want to, like, I'm tired, and maybe I'm tired because I have had to do it for my whole life or whatever, but I'm just like not interested in that. But if I have to do it, I can. And so the fact of the matter is being on the same page with those things versus, not being on the same page.
Yeah.
I want somebody who has ambitions, who has, drive. And it's not, like I said, I don't need you to be at work for 20 hours a day like that. Like, it's just a constant, but to have, goals and like know what God's purpose is for you, and to be just kind of pursuing that. I'm going to go to good communicator, because we sort of talked about.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is someone who listens well and talks openly. We can add to it. Tell me what you would add to that. But I've been with people who do all the talking, and because have always been a listener and a social worker, whatever, then I end up just doing that, and then I don't get anything out of the relationship, because we're not having a conversation, we're having a therapy session. But then you also don't want someone who doesn't talk at all. You know? Both are just listening to each other. Ain't nobody saying nothing. And so it's like you want someone who talks openly, even if they are shy or quiet. When we're together, we still should be able to have good communication and share.
Yeah. Communication is so critical as far as in the dating, the friendship, and marriage world. I mean, you have to be able to be open with the communication if you want a healthy relationship, because you need to be able to clearly, communicate your expectations so that the person knows what it is you're looking for. But I would say add to the communication is somebody who can respectfully resolve conflict. Like, your communication style when it comes to conflicts will also determine how far your relationship will go, and if it'll be a healthy one or unhealthy. How are they with communicating that they have an issue or concern? Is it going to be done in a respectful way, or is it going to be abrasive and harsh and cutting you every time? And so now you're feeling devalued, demeaned, or you begin to avoid not bringing up any issues or concerns because it's not going to be handled in a good way. And so therefore you begin to be resentful, bitter, there's this wall up, and therefore you're just dying a slow, painful death. But seriously, if you are married and that is happening, you choke the life out of your relationship.
You really do.
If that's the way that conflict is being handled, either avoided or the person is disrespectful with the conflict, in the resolution process of it, and things never get resolved.
Yes.
So these are things that you need to be mindful of when you're deciding to date.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm going to end here with this last one. There are more, but I'm not, as I said, we're not going to tell y'all everything. I wasn't like sure which one I wanted to say, but this one is super important to me. Actually, I'm going to go to this one. Head of household. Someone who leads
Yes.
without diminishing those who follow.
Preach. Say that one more time.
Someone who leads without diminishing those who follow. And I wrote that when I was 23, y'all. I have not added to this list at all since 93.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who even remembers 1993? But this is God. This isn't me just being like, oh, I'm going to just be all deep or whatever. But God has been preparing me for this ministry.
Yeah.
Before we knew there was such a thing as YouTube, for all the things that I do, I've been reading about relationships and marriage and parenting and courtship since I was a kid. When I say a kid, I mean a kid, like 9-10 years old. I was reading these books and I knew what God was saying. The Bible is clear on these things. And I see when it's done right and I see when it's done wrong. Men who are who try to be the head of the household, but then they diminish those who are following them or in submission. That is not godly. That's not how God leads. He's like, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. How does Christ love the church? He gave himself for her.
Yes.
And so a man who can lead and make you excited about following him, oh my goodness. And I've seen that. That. And I'm sure you've seen it too, but
yes,
but it's such a special thing. And a man who does that with a woman who is not like toxic or whatever, who's healed, man, she's going to put 150% into whatever he's trying to do for the family.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's so excited about following him and his vision and his leading and his direction. Because first of all, she knows it comes from God, but then the way that he presents that is so beautiful that you're just like, I want to be a part of that vision.
Yes. That's good, honey. That's good. That's good. I mean, you have a lot of people who want to lead in the world. They want to be successful. They want to be career driven. I want to be VP, vice president, president someday. But in leading the household, they're called to a different standard. And sometimes people think leading the household means I'm just leading it. You do, I have all the ideas and you do what I tell you. But it's really inverting the pyramid. To lead is actually to serve. So he has to be willing to also serve when you're leading the household, and it's a big role. And I know you as a woman, whoever that person is, he's going to have the support that he needs, and the value. He'll be valued and appreciated in that role and doing that. I wanted to say one more thing I would add to the list now that we know more is a person that's healed. That we've talked, or either on the healing journey. But if they're just stagnant, oh, Candace, that's good. That's one of the things I had on my list.
I actually do have that. I just skipped it because but I can go back.
I know because of time. What's one of the things I had on the Candace put some of my family. I put blended families or family relationships, kind of what their dynamics are with their family. But yeah, healed, I think is important as we now talk more about mental health, and we talk about walking around wounded and bleeding on people. We understand that we all still have that little boy or little girl in us, that some of the things from our childhood still is not healed, right? But in honesty, we won't be perfected until we get to heaven. Right. However, when you're diligently working on the inner self and you're trying to be a better version of yourself and getting healed from those things, it'd be great to have a partner too that's doing the same thing. Who's not just coming to the table and saying, hey, I have it all together because I have this degree, this job, and I have stature, and I have a title in the church, but who recognizes that I'm an imperfect person. that
Mhm.
have known issues, and that they're open and willing to discover those and to work on their healing, to become a better
Absolutely.
version of themselves. So,
Absolutely. I love that. And I think the only thing I said as I was reading my list, I said the only thing I would say, and it's probably just different words that, are encompassing what has already been said, is someone that has a growth mindset.
yes.
And that's obviously new language, just, within the last 5 or 7 years, probably. But the idea that someone appreciates what you just said, that I am where I am, but it's not all the places that I need to be. And
Yeah.
that means that I can grow. God has created me to grow. And I don't mind being wrong about this because I know I can be right about it later. And just because I'm wrong now doesn't mean I have to be wrong forever. Just because I'm not succeeding now doesn't mean I have to be not succeeding forever.
Yeah.
I can grow, I can learn, I can make these shifts and changes that I need to make. And when you have someone who is like that, then you have someone who's willing to come to the table when there are issues, and say, hey, I am willing to maybe go to counseling. I am willing to get coaching. I'm willing to read this book. I'm willing to do these things so that we can be better. And it does, and they don't even have to wait till things are wrong. They're
Yeah.
just on a constant journey of growing and being better and being healthier and knowing more and understanding more and how to be a better husband and how to be a better father and how to be a better wife and how to be a better mother and how to be a better friend and how to be a better Christian. Like, that is part of their journey. And with all of the resources that we have available now that you can do without even going to a counselor, that for someone to not do that, as I've said before, is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it says a lot about someone who is so closed, especially a Christian,
Yeah.
because Christians, like, the essence of Christianity is growth. The Bible, Romans 12:2,
Renewing.
be ye transformed, don't be conformed to this world, but be you transformed. How does transformation happen? Little by little, making this adjustment and that adjustment and sanctifying this and surrendering that. And so if you're calling yourself a Christian, a fixed mindset should be something that's not even in your vocabulary,
Yes.
other than say, maybe I used to when I was a sinner. And so that's part of the process for me. Like, I was like, if I would add anything, which I don't want to mess up my paper now, so we're not adding anything, but I'm like, but in my mind, I've said that, like, that's something that I definitely want, because I spend a lot of time listening to podcasts like this and other podcasts and reading and audio books and all this stuff, just trying to learn to how to be a better person, a better woman. Got a coach, relationship coach, and now I got a business coach. And so all of these things about trying just to be better at what I'm doing, because I don't have the answers for everything. I wanted to answer Candace's question. She said, did you have family oriented? And I do have that. I had, what I wrote was characteristics of a good father, which include unconditional love, non-judgmental listener, fun, disciplinarian, family oriented, understanding, and unselfish. So it does a lot. But that's what a good father looks like to me, because we have a good father.
Yes.
So yeah, so I did have that on there. And so those are a lot, and most of them, I didn't tell you all of them, but those are most of the things that I wrote on my list when I was a young 23-year-old girl who I went to a singles retreat, actually. And Pastor Chaplain Barry Black was the speaker for the weekend, and he told us to make a list. And I had never thought about that before, but I made it. And then as I continue to go through life, I was just like, I'm still comfortable with that list. I still love that list.
Yes.
And people are like, you should update the list. I was like, well, you don't know what's on the list, so you don't really know if I should update it.
Yeah.
And as I said, when I was thinking about the list, it was with God. It wasn't just, I had a type back then, but I've never really been married to a type. There are certainly preferences I've had when I was younger that maybe have shifted. as I got older, lighter skin, dark skin, curly hair, Albie Shore, the whole thing that everybody, like,
Yes.
But when we got to Stella Get Her Groove Back, now Tay Diggs was the thing, and the dark skin and all of that. But my thing is, if you have this character, I don't really care what your skin color is. I don't care how tall you are. I prefer you be taller than me, but I'm not that tall. So that's not a giant leap that you have to make. But even that is not, quite required. It would be nice if you were at least my height. But for real, we really have to stop as Christian women looking for a partner. We need to seek God's real guidance on who that should be and what that should look like.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to toot my own horn or whatever, but all of the mistakes and choices that I've made, even with dating people, there are many people I dated that in a million years I would never marry. And I knew that when I was dating them. I called them the flavor of the month. That's just what I did. But I would never I would never marry these people because I had this list, and this list was always in my heart and in my mind, even when I wasn't reading it every single day. And so if you already married, what's on your list? Because God can still make those adjustments in part of your partner. What should you be? Because that's part of my thing too. Like, what should I be in order for him to be attracted to me? That's what I need to be working on. That's what I need to be praying for in my own life, so that I recognize him and then he recognizes me.
Amen. I'm glad you added that point about married. Because just because you didn't know, I am married. We already said it a couple of times. But to that point, if you are married, sit down. Like I've said this before in other episodes, sit down with your spouse and you both write down. You write down what you would like your marriage to look like and let him write his list. And then y'all come and review it together, because maybe what your perspective was at year 1 of your marriage, and now you're year 10 into it, or 5 or 3, whatever, it's changed. What you thought was romantic is no longer. It's annoying. And now you just want your bed made. I keep saying that because I love my bed made. You get out of it last. You need to make it, sir. Okay. But to that point, sit down and write it out. Be intentional. Be intentional when you're even in your marriage to what you want it to look like. And yes, even you have kids. I have 4 kids. You still make time to date your spouse. You date each other. You plan a date. You plan time. You carve time out where you're talking during the day, what is not about the kids, is not about the bills. You do check-ins. And so make this, make it a little a thing that you do to write out this list together, what you want your marriage to look like. And guess what? It's all in between you two. It don't have to look like mine. It don't have to look like anybody's. You write out what you want it to look like.
Yes.
And you work towards it, and you pray and ask God to help you both to do these things that you need to do. Because outside of your relationship with God, that's one of the most important relationships you will have is your marriage. And so you want it to be beautiful. Jesus wanted us, told us we can have an abundant life. And I believe I'm walking it out right now in real time. I have a beautiful marriage. I love my husband. He loves me. We like each other. We like hanging out. And I believe that we're blessed because by God for that reason. We also had to do real life check-ins. And sometimes it's a tough conversation. And you need to have it though, because who else you're going to have it with? Have it with that person, not with somebody outside the marriage complaining about what they ain't doing that you want them to do. Talk to each other, sit down and make this list. And if you got young people in your family that are dating or going to be dating, have them make their list out. And the key point too, Lorraine, I love that you said, what is it about yourself that you want? Who is it that you want to be? How do you want to show up in the world each day? Because that will also determine what you attract. Because what you putting out there, whatever you putting out there, that's what you're going to be attracting. I'm tired of guys just wanting me for my body, but all your pictures Everything about you, and you're using a filter on everything. It's only your
It's
body.
telling men, come get my body. Yeah.
That's
So-
it. You wouldn't respect my mind, do you? Do you really? Okay. Okay.
Onetia crazy, y'all. Onetia crazy. She said, "Do you?" Because I don't appear that way.
I mean, okay.
So I want to just read these two quotes that I thought were just like super cool. That I was as it relates to this. They were again talking about marriage, and it was two different TED Talks, but one was saying we need to build better fences at the cliff rather than having more ambulances in the valley.
Ooh. Ooh.
And I was like, if she didn't say a word right there, and to me, knowing your values and dating people who value what you value is putting a fence at the cliff so that you're not falling over and now you need an ambulance, now you need a therapist, now you need a coach, now you need prayer. Now we should always need prayer, but you know what I'm saying? Like you need all of these measures to fix what's broken versus let's not fall off the cliff. Let's just climb to the mountain and enjoy the view.
Yes.
Let's not fall off the cliff. So put those barriers in place by saying, I don't date men who drink. As fine as they are, and he was fine, y'all. He was fine. And like
It was fine.
I ain't even fine like that in a minute. But like I was just saying, I guess because I'm in my room most of the time. So I'm not outside. But in between when I saw him the first time when he noticed me, and then at the end he was drinking because it was a party. It wasn't a Christian party. It wasn't an Adventist party. It was just a party, an event. And so I'm like, I'm not mad that he drinks.
Yeah.
He don't know me. I'm not mad at any of that, but I know me, and that's not a value of mine. So yeah. I'm also not, and here's the other quote that is going to match what I'm about to, and I'm going to say it after. Never attempt to teach a pig to sing. It wastes your time and annoys the pig. So this dude is fine. I'm not going to be like, well, I don't date men who drink, so I need you to stop drinking. It's like, this is my life.
Right.
You need to go find someone who's fine and doesn't drink, who has your values. We are always trying to squeeze someone into our box.
Yes.
That's why you need to know what your box is. There's some flexibility on some stuff. There's not a lot of flexibility of me on the majors. I have a list on the list. They're minors and then they're incidentals, things that I would just love to have.
Yeah.
There was a lot of flexibility around those things, but on the majors, there's not a lot of flexibility. And so if he's unkind, if he's not generous, if he's not a provider, if he's trying to lay on my couch and live, then I don't need to be dating him.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna try to change him. I'm not saying encourage somebody. You can encourage someone and maybe they just need that and then they go off and do their thing. Great. And you can, as Pastor Leggett would say, you can express that to them.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're not trying to change, you need to go.
Yep.
You don't need to go slowly. You need to go quickly. Because the slower you go, the more entangled you get,
yes.
And then you don't go. Collect the data. Don't give your heart until it's time to give your heart. You have control over that.
Yes.
And then if it's not matching the values that you have outlined, you need to run. You need to run.
Amen.
We don't need any more ambulances at the bottom of the cliff. We need fences, y'all.
Yes.
And if you have children, teach them early to put those fences up because they value themselves more than they need validation from another person.
Amen.
Put up your fence.
Amen. Those are
Ain't
beautiful
interested in
quotes.
singing, so stop. Like,
You keep on trying, keep trying to make excuses, keep trying to rationalize, and I'm clear. And I too even told my daughter this yesterday. Men are pretty much typically clear and upfront about who they
they are.
are, and what they want, and tell you. And women, we keep trying to.
Like,
Oh, I'll just, I'll change. I'll love that out of him. I'll
yeah.
change you. You're not.
And not only will you not love it out of him, you will begin to hate him.
Oh yeah.
Build a fence, Candace. Build a fence.
Build a fence. That thing preached. Okay.
Yes, it is. So go, and if you're already married, ask God, how do I repair the fence? How do I put it up now? Because we falling down the cliff. Or maybe we're at the bottom already, Lord. Please help us put a cast on it. Whatever you got to do surgery, but fix it, Lord, because he can fix it.
Amen.
So that, Onita, is the bulk of my list that actually has not been seen or heard by another person ever since I wrote the list, except me and God are the only people who knew what are on that list. Now the world knows.
The world knows, guys. It's an exclusive. It's an exclusive. You got it here.
Now, if y'all know him, y'all need to holler at me and just make an introduction. If y'all be like, oh, I know someone who's, then you need to make the introduction.
Exactly. Listen, I remember when Terry was on here and she said she wrote her list or something, prayed, and 7 days later.
Mm-hmm.
So God, I'm believing you.
Yeah, she told us to pray over the list, so we're praying over this. And God can do whatever God wants to do.
She said pray over the list, and then they need you to do the next 2 steps. Go to the health food store or the pet store. Okay.
All right, Onita.
Pray over that list.
Go look at some fish. I'm gonna go look at some fish. All right. So you all, let me just close up here with scripture. And I need my phone for this because I wasn't able to type it out. But I want you to understand that we're having fun and we appreciate, all of that. But there's a biblical standard to this.
Yes.
2 Timothy, if you have your Bibles, you can turn 1 Timothy chapter 3, and I'm going to read verse 1-7 and hear what it says. This is a faithful saying. If a man desires the position of a bishop, he desires a good work. A bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife, temperate, sober-minded, of good behavior, hospitable, able to teach, not given to wine, not violent, not greedy for money, but gentle, not quarrelsome, not covetous, one who rules his own house well, having his children in submission with all reverence. For if a man does not know how to rule his own house, how will he take care of the church of God? Not a novice, lest being puffed up with pride, he fall into the same condemnation as the devil. Moreover, he must have a good testimony among those who are outside, lest he fall into reproach and the snare of the devil. God has a list. God has a list.
Come on.
Of people to even serve in his church or his temple. And you don't have a list for someone you're going to spend the rest of your life with?
Woo.
And his list is actually pretty good too. So you might want to check that out. But we're not just talking here. Yeah. It's not just for fun. You should have a list that God has given to you for what your husband needs to be and who you need to be, so that marriage actually fulfills the purpose that God has for your marriage.
Amen. Amen.
We thank you all for joining us. We appreciate all of you who have been in the comments.
Yes.
And we want to remind you to build a fence. Build a fence. She felt she got a hold of that one.
That's right.
We love you. We appreciate you. Please like, please share, please comment, subscribe. Please share this with other women who need to, and men who need to hear this.
Yeah.
And we will be back next week with a guest, and we're going to be talking about singleness, but actually not being pressed to be married. We have a single woman who's joining us, and I'm excited about this because a lot of us want to be married, and she's not saying she doesn't ever want to be married, but she's not pressed. And she's going to talk about her experience of singleness and how she's walking with that. And so join us next week as we invite our guests to us, and as Onetia joins us back here again for another episode of Live, Love, and Marry Wiser. And so until next time, make choices that will help you live, love, and marry wiser. God bless.
Good night, y'all.